Good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of the Warsh podcast. And today I want to, let me pause for a moment because I want to think of the most important lessons that I've learned today. So definitely one of them. One thing that I thought about today is just no matter what happens, don't quit. I mean, today so many times I thought about quitting my quest to become this king of self-improvement, my self-improvement journey, I bet you there are at least 10 times today where the thought of, man, there's no point, I should give up, that crossed my mind. But I think that's just your brain. It's your brain playing tricks on you, and it's your brain having defense mechanisms because it doesn't want you to feel the pain of failure. But the problem with that is oftentimes, the pain of failure is the only way that we grow. It's when I think about the points in my life where I made the biggest progress, especially this past year and a half, it always came off the back of a substantial, painful failure or heartbreak or rejection or loss. Those can be your defining moments if you let them. They can be your defining moments in a good way or a bad way, because they can be the moment where your weakness is revealed to you and you make a change and you grow. Or it can be the moment where you play the victim and you deflect responsibility and you shrink. Because when you fail, that's God sending you a message of, hey, see this area in your life? You're not doing as well as you should be. In fact, here's a weakness, and it shows. God shows you those weaknesses, or the universe. If you don't believe in God, which is okay, to each their own. In that case, it would be like the universe, or you're being sent a sign that you are not cutting it in a certain area of life. And you need to make a change. It's it hurts. It can really hurt. And you can be filled with regret afterwards of man, I can't believe I didn't see that. I can't believe I didn't know that. I can't believe I didn't, do that thing. But the most painful part about life is that life can only be understood in reverse, but it has to be lived forward. We have to go through the fog of war, and we only get the clearness, we only get that hindsight after the fact. So one skill that I'm trying to work on right now is trying in some areas just to detach as much as I can from that fog of war. Try to see the big picture and try to see life from a third person perspective and make your choices that way, rather than going through life in your first person point of view. Man, it's all over the place. It's scary. You don't know what's going on. It's hectic. So that's another thing that I'm trying to learn. That leads on to another good thing that I kind of thought about today for a while, is becoming detached. Being a detached person, specifically detached from outcomes. Because in order to take risks, in order to face significant anxieties and fears that you might have, in order to stare down the barrel of rejection in any area of life, you have to become a little bit detached from the outcome. You have to accept that failure and success are both possibilities, and no matter which one comes your way, you're going to be able to handle it. Some of that, oh come on buddy, put your fucking signal on. There's no way you just did that. Like, what a clown. Some of that fear can only be overcome the hard way, of actually just, man, like stealing your balls and just pushing through the fear and doing what you said you were gonna do, even though you're terrified. I've been there. And it's hard. It's really hard. Like, people, you know, it's easy to say, I'm gonna go stand up to my boss because he's mistreating me. Then you'll notice when you actually go to do that, you're gonna be fucking like shaking sometimes. Like, that's how scared you'll actually be. Like, you'll be shaking, you'll be like, I don't know, if I often get nerves in like my gut, like I have to take a shit really bad sometimes, or I feel like I'm gonna pee my pants. So you're like, you almost lose control of your gut. Like, you feel, everybody knows that feeling, you know, like, yeah, you're shaking, you're so nervous, like you might actually end up, you know, stumbling over words, like you forget how to speak, you can forget how to think. And those systems are in place for a good reason, because those are your primal fight or flight responses. That's for anybody who's kind of into like brain anatomy and who's kind of interested in that stuff, and like that's your amygdala triggering those. One thing that I learned that's really cool about the brain is that your body's limbic system, like we have evolved to trigger and produce emotional instant responses to things like way faster and way more powerful than like logical decisions. That's the that's all the millions of years of evolution of fight or flight. They've done crazy experiments on this stuff that, you know, your body just generates these overpowering instant fight or flight responses, which is why it's so hard to actually face some of these scenarios in real life, because like you don't realize how powerful these subconscious signals are until they actually occur. You like, it's easy to say, yeah, I'll overcome the fear, you know. Well, the fear becomes a lot more difficult to overcome when all of a sudden, like, you're shaking like crazy. You can't string a thought or a coherent sentence together, and you feel like you're gonna like piss and shit yourself at the same time. All right, hold on, give me 1 sec here. I'm ordering a coffee and a cookie. Give me a second. Hi there, could I please have a a small iced coffee and one of the Oreo cookies? Yeah, for sure. No, that's all. Thanks. Yeah, you know, the ancient evolutionary emotional responses we have to stuff they're incredibly powerful. So finding ways to cope with them and to overcome them it's like a constant, never-ending challenge that you just have to continuously face, and it doesn't get any easier. It's always really difficult, even with experience. Emotions are a crazy thing. They're a crazy thing. Like, you learn about like all the different emotions we have and the reasons that we have them. Like, you know, fear, an obvious one, because we used to battle, you know, we used to have to battle predators and run from predators. So that's like, you know, your body just sends you an instant shot of adrenaline. Your eyes widen to take in surrounding stuff. You get like super twitchy because you're ready to dash away. Anger, if you were ever in conflict with somebody, like, you're gonna notice the blood rushing to your head. All of a sudden you start gripping really tightly, because if you're gripping a weapon or something, you lose all sense of control and fear. When you're angry, like, your fear goes away. You just start seeing red and you just start attacking, because that's your body just switching into its killer instinct mode when it had to fight. You might notice if you ever feel a conflict, like with somebody brewing, like if you start getting really angry and defensive, that's your subconscious, like that's your amygdala, like getting ready. It's like, oh shit, there's a fight coming. I need to, like, I'm gonna give this guy a shot of adrenaline, like a shot of anger, to, you know, get him ready so we can fight this person. And all of these ancient emotions, you know, they were fantastic for when we were like cavemen, and, you know, when we were battling woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers. But I wouldn't consider them very useful in today's society, where our roles and our challenges are very different than they were. That's not to say emotions are a bad thing, because they're kind of the cornerstone of life. I mean, a life with no emotion is no life at all. We need them. But managing them and recognizing them and understanding what role they play and whether what you're feeling is legitimate or not, and overcoming it, presents such a monstrous challenge. I empathize with those who fight those battles on a daily basis. Emotions are tricky. They're tricky, especially for us guys who are told to just, you know, bury our emotions deep down inside instead of acknowledging them and, you know, handling them, recognizing them. Yeah. So detachment. Hold on, I gotta pick up my shit here. Afternoon. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
Take care. Have a good one. All right. Just gonna get the coffee sorted here. There we go. Put that there. And put our credit card away. So, detachment from outcomes. Do the best you can to say, if you're doing something that might scare you, just tell yourself before you do it, say, I understand, I accept all possible outcomes, from the best case scenario to the worst case scenario to everything in between. And I know that no matter which outcome I get, I'm going to be able to handle it. Tell yourself that. And also, something to remember, your brain and your amygdala, it is trained, it is hardwired to anticipate the worst case scenario at all times. That is its job. That is its job because that's what kept us alive for so long. Like your amygdala, your primal limbic system, that it is solely responsible for keeping you alive by constantly predicting the worst case scenario and having you ready for it. However, we live in a lot safer of a time. The worst case scenario is no longer even close to the most likely outcome. It is still possible, but most outcomes are actually more likely than the worst case scenario. So just try to remember that whenever, like, I don't know, say you're at a bar and you want to go, you want to go talk to a girl, you want to tell her she's pretty and ask her to go dancing. Just remember, yes, there's a possibility you get slapped, called a creep, or get a drink thrown in your face and then get kicked out by the bouncer. But that possibility is actually pretty fucking low. And if it happens, who cares? You got thrown out of a bar. Just go to another one. So, things will never be as bad as they seem. They'll always be better. You'll always be able to handle them. Just try to remember that. Try to remember that. Thank you for listening to another episode or watching another episode of the Ben Warsh podcast. Another car episode today, but I low-key fuck with them, so I might keep doing them. Maybe tomorrow we'll be back in the room. We'll be on the mic. A little more chill. But thank you, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Stay detached, and I hope to see you back here again tomorrow. Peace.